All right, we are live and we are here with Ali, who's a Muslim and he wants to talk to us about free speech. Hi, Ali.
Hey, what's up, Armin? How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Good as well. Thank you for asking.
I watched
Alhamdulillah.
your segment on Harris Sultan's channel, by the way. Shout out to Harris Sultan. But that was a short discussion that you had with him.
And
Um,
in
did
that,
you?
it was just my voice. You recognized it was me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but now we're gonna have a longer discussion about this, about your views about free speech, and you have some disagreements with me and people like Harris Sultan, right? Do you
Yeah,
want to discuss? Okay,
yeah.
give it to me.
Uh,
Hmm.
just to address the kind of elephant in the room.
Hmm.
The main thing about we're just attacking the ideology, not the people. We're just attacking the ideology, not the people. So remember, I spoke with you like a few
Wait,
weeks
you
back.
need to explain to people that what you're talking about, right? By the way, shout out to everybody in the live chat, guys. If you're not if you're just subscribed and you're watching this later, maybe you didn't hit the notification bell, so make sure you hit the notification bell so you could join live, and we'll highlight your comments if I get the chance. Okay, but so when you say something like that, you need to understand that there are a lot of people who have no idea what you're talking about because they're not
Oh,
involved in this discussion. So like, explain that.
right,
Yeah.
right. So I mean, by the way, the number of times the ex-Muslim community has mentioned we're attacking the ideology, not the people, is
Mm.
so much that I think people by now know what I mean. So ex-Muslims say that while uh, attacking someone, that we're just attacking the ideology. We're attacking Islam, not Muslims. But the thing is, first of all, like there are two rebuttals to it, because when I spoke with you before, on the live stream, we both agreed that the one who is getting offended decides that this thing will offend me and this thing will not offend me. So once we agree to this, the whole discussion about attacking ideology, not the people, goes out the window, because I have, I have good reasons to believe that why what I believe in is better for humanity. And if that's attacked, then I decide that I will be offended by it. No one can dictate me that, see, here are the reasons you should not be offended by it. I
Hmm.
decided that I will be offended by it. That's it. So you cannot make the distinction between ideology and the people, between Islam and, we are just attacking Islam. Well, Islam is dear to me, so when you attack Islam, you
You're
attack
hitting
me.
your microphone. Can you make your
Oh,
microphone like,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
That ruined my whole thing.
That's
All right.
okay.
So basically, what I was saying was that, yeah. Thank you for saying it. Let me know when I do that again.
Oh.
So the distinction between the ideology or Islam or the people, the Muslims, goes out the window the moment we both agree that the person who's getting offended, he gets
Mm.
to decide what he's being offended by. Then, if later on, if you go ahead.
Sorry, the live chat is saying, can we actually get a short intro of Ali and Baby saying, yes, please, not just some Muslim. Like, do you want to give you a short
Uh,
intro?
uh,
Do
I'm
you care? There you go.
I'm just really, guys. I'm just like a Muslim, your average regular next door guy.
Hmm.
Just had some disagreements with the whole,
So
the
you're
take on free speech.
average, friendly neighborhood Muslim.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
familiar. Abdullah Samir. Yeah. So you can say so. Yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
nothing much about me.
Okay, okay.
So
Continue.
yeah.
Sorry. That was the live chat. Wanted to know more about you, but go on.
So
All right, continue.
so basically, the first point is that the mantra of, we are just attacking Islam. We are not attacking the Muslims, goes basically out the window the moment we agree that the person who decides that I'm offended by this, that person decides. You cannot give me reason that I should not be offended by that.
Hmm.
So uh, the, that whole this is the first thing that I want to address, that this should really, it means nothing whether you believe it or not, that we are just attacking Islam, we are not attacking the Muslims. It means nothing when we agree that the person being offended, he decides what who wants to be offended by. If you uh, desecrate the holy book or do anything, and that offends me, you cannot come later and say, "See, we are just attacking Islam. We're not attacking you." It's just like punching someone and saying, "Yeah, I'm just attacking your cheek. You should not feel the pain. It's just your cheek." Something like that. So that's the first thing. I
Can
mean,
I
I can.
respond? Do you mind?
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
All right. So I never. Well, actually, let me. So maybe if you go back enough. So my argument is not that you shouldn't be offended. Okay. I did like. Do you see an argument from me? Okay. So here's the thing. I do not represent the ex-Muslim community. Okay.
I agree what you said before, right?
Yeah. I represent myself. Okay. And my argument is not that, hey, this offends you. It shouldn't offend you. This should not hurt you. Okay. That's not my argument. And I also I don't think I decide that for you. And I don't even think like you decide that for you. I don't think like you can control what you get emotionally.
No,
Maybe you can a little bit. Okay. But yeah.
So I 100% agree that you never made that argument. But I'm
Okay.
saying if we agree on that, then the whole I'm only attacking Islam, not Muslims, that whole thing goes out the window, because
it doesn't.
you get the point.
Yeah, I get the point, but it doesn't. The reason why it doesn't is because you don't have to watch me desecrate the Quran.
Okay.
So I know okay, there's a lot of other content out there right now that if I watch, it will emotionally destroy me to my core. I know that exists out there, right? I've seen some of it, right? And I don't go watch those stuff.
Yeah,
so
but haven't you...
what I think your argument will be justified if I somehow forced you or made it very difficult for you to avoid watching me desecrate the Quran. And we actually have examples, thanks to like for example, the United States Army, I think, tortured some people by forcing them to watch them desecrate the Quran or something like that. They had no choice at that point to look away or not be exposed to this. And yeah, that's horrible. That is, you should have full control over what material you're exposed to, right? And if anybody makes that difficult for you, if anybody forces a type of content on you, because and I see a lot of people. I see a lot of people from my community. I criticize them for this, right? They say like, "Oh, you shouldn't get offended." I didn't say, no, you can be offended. I think the line shouldn't be like, "Oh, if you go and say like, hey, I'm offended by this," and people are like, "Oh, you're offended, like, look, you're so sensitive, you shouldn't be offended." No, that's not the line. The line like, "Oh, you're offended. Okay, here's how you can block me." The line that I introduce is that, okay, if you're offended, so there's 3 steps, right? You're offended. You announce to the world that you're offended. You demand to the world they stop something because you're offended. Okay. A lot of people put the red line as you shouldn't be offended. I don't agree with that red line. You can be offended if you want, right? It's your thing. It's your priorities. Some people put it at the second step. They say like, okay, fine, you're offended, but while you're announcing it to the world that you're offended, you shouldn't be announcing it. No, it doesn't matter. I don't put the red line there. I think it's okay for you to announce to the world that you're offended by something. It might make it easier for me to know that you don't want something that I shouldn't expose to you if I know that you don't like it. Thank you for publicly, making that information available to me, so I know that a certain type of content is not welcome to you. So I don't. I want to make sure that I have a green light from you before I expose you to a certain content. So my red line for you is not even there. But the third step is like, that's where my red line is. When you're offended by something, and not you, by the way, I'm just using it generally. And then now you're making a demand to me about what kind of content I can create. I like, no, when you announce that you're offended by something, that means that I'm not welcome to force something on you, and I have to be careful around you not to say something because you don't like it, right? But most of the content I create is on my platforms, so people are coming to me. I'm not going to other people. So that's my red line. You don't get to make it that. I mean, you can make it the demand, but I can ignore that demand, right? It's your responsibility to control what type of content you're exposed to. It's not the artist or the content creator's responsibility to censor themselves based on what you're offended. It's your responsibility to manage the content you're exposed to based on what you're offended by.
Yeah, but yes, I hear you, but no one, like, at least, let's keep it limited to me, because no one here said that, I'm demanding you to stop doing that. I'm just saying that, this this get out of jail card of we're just offending A, you should not be offended by A. This get out of
I'm
jail
not
card should not be
sorry.
used.
I didn't say you shouldn't be offended. So I don't know why you're responding. Why you keep
No,
mentioning that.
no, no. See, when you say that we're just attacking Islam, not the Muslim, this
Mm-hmm.
is factually incorrect. Because when you do so and so, I do get offended, and that is an attack on me. Because you see, things like Marxism, communism, capitalism, there is no way to sit and stand believing in those. There's no way to eat and drink believing those. Islam is something else. I eat and drink by the way that religion teaches me. So it's a way of life. It's not an ideology. When you insult that, you insult my way of life. So, and you can. I'm not saying stop doing that. You can go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that when you then later on, when someone expresses displeasure, well, I can do like this and not watch, but there is consequentialism in the world. These things happen in political scenarios. People far right wing does it. They do it openly. So it's not just you doing it. There are many people doing it. There is consequentialism. Things do get out there, and no one can just bury their head in the sand and not watch it. And when from the corner of my eye, if we see you doing this and express our displeasure, that displeasure is valid, and you cannot make it invalid by saying that,
No,
oh, we're just attacking Islam. We're not
I
attacking
do not
Muslim. No,
make it.
you
I do
are
not.
attacking Muslim because
Okay. I do not make it invalid. I acknowledge it. But hold on, let me before I respond to that. Mortad is saying, I think I'm gonna answer for you, Ali. Let me know if your answer, if I'm misrepresenting you. Okay, I'm trying. Okay, ask him if he believes people have the right to say things that others deem offensive. I think Ali says that. I think, correct me, I'm just guessing. Okay, Ali will say yes, they have the right, but they shouldn't use the excuse of they shouldn't pretend like they're not attacking Muslims. They can still do it,
Mhm.
but do not pretend like you're not attacking Muslims, right? If that's what your
Yes,
answer is going to
yes.
be, okay. So
Okay, almost.
I
Just
understand you well.
I
Yeah.
seem so. The
Okay.
thing, like, in your answer, you talked about drawing lines. So I mean, sure, you brought up also freedom of speech. Then we have this issue of blasphemy and all that. We'll get there, but about this point,
But I didn't respond to your last point.
yeah,
Can you
go ahead.
write that down so I can respond to this first and then
Yeah,
say, right?
go ahead. Go ahead.
So here's the thing. I actually have been acknowledging that I know this emotionally hurts people, right? Okay, so I haven't said I have. It's not like I've ignored that. Like, okay, and that's why I want to make it clear to most. I'm actually doing even something else. I'm trying to get used to it. Is that if I do desecrate the Quran, I do a trigger. I mean, every time I've done, no, most of the times that I've done a desecration of the Quran, like the title of the video, it made it very clear what this is going to be, right? But going forward, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a trigger warning before I desecrate the Quran, right? So I do know I do not the purpose is not to emotionally hurt people. The purpose is to show that it's your responsibility. It's the other person's responsibility to manage what they're exposed to, right? And for me to acknowledge, for me to even make this argument that it's your responsibility to manage the content that you're exposed to based on what you're offended by, for me to even be able to make that point is an acknowledgement that I know that this is emotionally hurting you. Do you know what I mean? So I do
Yes.
acknowledge that it's not something that it's not there, right?
Okay.
But when
Okay.
people, I also, so with regards to we saying we're attacking Islam, not Muslims, and you're saying you cannot say that, I think maybe you misunderstand what.
You can, but it's just a get out of jail card. I mean, you just want to uh, avoid the bad way hand by saying that. This is
I mean,
not
it seems
true.
like I haven't been avoiding it because I've acknowledged. I say we're attacking Islam, not Muslims, while acknowledging the hurt feelings, right? So it seems like I'm not. If I use that line, it seems like I'm not denying the fact that that exists, right?
But then what's
So
the purpose?
maybe we mean something else when we say we're attacking Islam, not Muslims.
Yeah,
Maybe we're
what
not.
do you mean by that?
What we mean is, well, we're not attacking Muslims based on
You
as
are.
people.
That's the
Oh,
point. You
you're not
are.
letting me. You're not letting me talk.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. So by attack, you mean, so we're trying to distinguish between the people that going after human beings for merely existing, for being who they are as human beings, attacking their rights, discriminating against them, trying to make life difficult for them, actual human oppression, human rights violations, right? We're trying to distinguish between that and just questioning people's ideas, right? So that is what we're trying to, that's what we mean. Okay, so you could, if your definition of attacking people could include saying or doing things that makes their feelings hurt, then by that standard, that's a different definition that we're using. We're trying to demonstrate that this is different than maybe what some far right bigots, the problem like far right bigots have against you is you, okay, not your just ideas, like, right? So we're trying to say that we're trying to come up with a phrase to show that our types of attack is different, right? Because if we use your definition of attack, then you could say like Islam is like special or something, but I could tell you like maybe people get hurt differently by different levels. But if you question people's ideas, a lot of people get hurt emotionally, right? So you could say you could go to a Republican. I mean, look at, like, okay, every time I say Trump did something wrong, there's some crybabies in the live chat like, Trump derangement syndrome, like they start crying out, and if I mean, does that mean that they cry, they genuinely, they like, like they get really hurt emotionally, right? So does that mean that I'm attacking them as people because now they're emotionally hurt? I'm not saying that definition of attacking is, you could define it like that, right? I just don't define it like that because I'm trying to separate myself with somebody that is like now wishing violence on Trump supporters, right? There are people out there that are wishing violence on Trump supporters, right? So me, for example, saying Trump is not a good president, and then they crying over it, you could technically say, yes, I'm attacking them because they're emotionally hurt. But when I say we're not attacking these people personally, I'm not saying like, oh, if you're a Trump supporter, you must be a bad human being, or you must something bad has to happen to you. Like, I'm just trying to separate that. So if you want to use it, if you don't like the way we're phrasing it and you have a different vocabulary or have a different definition, maybe this is just becomes a semantic argument. But that's the line that we're trying to cross. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay. Yes. Now, for you mentioned different standards of the definition of attack. For a fraction of a second, let's say Armin and Ali both agree on my definition of attack. for that fraction of a setting, for that fraction of a second, then will you acknowledge that this is untrue when you say we are
Yeah, if we
attacking
use your
only
definition, yeah, if we use your
that's it.
definition, okay, but if we use your definition, then every disagreement is an attack on
Mocking
people.
and disagreement is separate. Mocking
No,
and disagreement
You
is
don't get to decide. You don't. I'm going to use your own argument against you. Okay, so you might only get hurt emotionally by mocking, but there are people sensitive enough that they get emotionally hurt by just mere disagreements. So, based on your
yes,
definition, just disagreement alone could also be attacking people.
right. Okay, yeah. So then this becomes a point of how we perceive things. That there is no
No, it's a semantics.
set in stone.
It's a definition. So here's the thing: when we have different definitions, you can't be like I'm right because of this, and you're wrong because of that, because we're working with different definitions, right? And if in that situation, if I tell you what I mean by attack, they may be like, okay, based on your definition of attack, you're right, and based on your definition, Ali's definition of attack, Ali is right too. So we're not
Right.
having a disagreement here. We're just using the words
Different
differently.
definitions.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So just wanted to get out there. So we're past this, and then it comes to the point comes to you saying you draw a line at the third phase you mentioned before, right?
Right.
Well, then this I don't really want to go deep into the whole blasphemy thing, because one thing is true, that governments are using such laws sometimes wrongly. So I don't want to get in there, and there's no true Islamic government right now anywhere. But let's say a society agrees upon some standards that this is where we draw the line, and they introduce a law for that to be deterred. Now, yesterday, you had the live stream with you, 4 other people. Deborah was there, Susanna was there, other people were there. Like in the WAP lyrics and all that, 5 people could not agree on that ethical moral standard. Then that's different people draw a line different places. So what if a society agrees that this is where we draw the line, and when this line is crossed, we as a society will introduce laws to deter that? Then according to you, that will be wrong. According to them, that will be right. So blasphemy will be if a democratically elected government introduces laws to deter A, B, and C, then you will say that we need to free these people, this is wrong, and that will be according to you, right? Not
well, I
not
mean,
according to everyone.
I'm willing to accept certain laws that I don't like if, as a whole, the methodology of the laws that are being passed is based on certain principles and based on people who are democratically elected, as long as they're withholding enlightenment values. I mean, there's going to be disagreements, obviously, but again, those the process is more important than the conclusion, because even the process might sometimes give you answers that I don't like, or maybe it's not just what I don't like, maybe it ends up actually being objectively not that very good. The law might not that be very good, but overall you get much better laws and standards
Okay.
if we abide by certain standards. The methodology matters more than the conclusions, even though some of the conclusions are going to end up being bad. Most of the times you're going to get better answers if you stick with the right methodology. Can you write down your response, because I do want to mention something that Kraton said. Kraton asked earlier, what about Islam being offensive to, for example, me? Do you think that's an attack on me if I find Islam offensive?
You can find Islam offensive,
and that's an attack on me based on your definition.
Well, if I'm in a way mocking me, not God. We have
God,
to make
the Quran.
me.
No, the Quran itself. If I find the Quran offensive,
then that's for you. But as I gave the example of the judge, then we can regard to be the ultimate judge. If he says something, then I mean we will not disagree with that. But me saying something, God saying something is different. This is where you and I disagree. But that's
Thank you.
if they could specify in their question.
You can see from a perspective of somebody that doesn't believe in your God, it does. I know that you disagree with me on this, but if you try to put yourself in our shoes, like it just seems like it's your get out of jail free card. Like you get to have certain opinions that you criticize other people for, but it's just that it's your God saying it, so it's okay.
No, but
Like
the same God, he it stops me from doing so.
No, but you could
If
get,
I'm doing that,
instead of saying it yourself, you could say our God said so. Do you know what I mean? Like I could be like, if I had my
yeah,
own made up God, and which just says something very disgusting about Muslims as a whole, and I was like, well, I'm not saying that. My God is saying that, right? And my God is the ultimate authority, and that's different. It just from a perspective of somebody that doesn't believe in my God, that just seems to be like, oh, other people, you criticize other people. When it comes to you, there's different standards because it's coming from a made up position of authority. Do you see?
yes, yeah. Then I agree with you. Yeah, then they can definitely feel attacked, and they can definitely feel offended. No disagreement over that.
Okay, all right, continue. You were gonna say something. You have
Yeah. So what I was saying was that give me one moment. So let's say there is a country X, and we'll call blasphemy law or any law A. Country X is the government over there is democratically elected. The society over there chooses to enforce law A. Armin will not like law A because according to him it's wrong. But that society in country X believes that that is right, and they have overwhelming evidence, scientific evidence of why that's right. Although that's a whole another issue, that not everything is should be and is based on science. There is pragmatism always. So that law according to them is right. According to you, it's wrong. So definitely in this case, you have the right to be against it, but you also have a right to say that they're wrong to create such laws. But from an objective point of view, like they could be right. Who's to decide? Who decides in a humanistic society? Who decides these standards of laws of freedom of speech? Who is what is that standard? What is that reference point?
All right, so we have the legal process and also the truth-seeking process. These are two separate things, right? So whether we decide if something is actually harmful or a good idea or not, we go through either scientific analysis or data analysis, right? We do some statistical research, and those are the processes that we know pragmatically is the best method to figure out if something is true or not. Okay, so that's one thing. Separately, we have the legal process, and if the legal process comes up with laws based on which is based on evidence, that would be better, right? But because this is one of the flaws within a democracy, right? Again, it's limited. So in a democracy, it has to be based on what most people want, right? But what we are hoping, we cannot force what is the best answer on people. Okay, we cannot. That if we do that pragmatically, there is giving the government an authority to force something on people, right? So I just wanted to separate these two concepts from you, right? Just because these are two different enlightenment values that are not that making them both happen at the same time is a huge challenge, right? So we want the government to be based on what people want, but we also think that the best laws that for society are laws that are based on evidence, and there's actually a scientific analysis on whether or not something works or not, right? So this seems like a contradiction, right? The thing is that even though if there are certain laws that are better objectively are better than other laws, if you force that on people, you're giving the government too much authority, and that in the long run is not going to be beneficial, right? Just because now they're using a scientific methodology and actually giving people what works best for them against their wishes, that doesn't mean that it will continue, right? Because the government that has that much of authority has its own self-interest, and it might move into a different direction. So we need democracy to keep the government in check, even if people make the wrong decision, right? So the methodology that we have, that we suggest to get both democracy and also laws that actually help the highest number of people, is to have a democratically elected government, but do try to promote that methodology from bottom up rather than top down, to try to do activism on the people rather than get the government to force these values on people. So try to change the opinions on the ground, so those changes in opinion reflect itself on the government. So if I, for example, think that if I believe in a more extreme version of freedom of expression compared to somebody else, but a democratically elected government says nope, these are certain things that you can't say, I'm not gonna disobey the law or something like that, right? What I'm going to try to do is try to do activism and tell people that this is a bad law, and you need to push for your elected officials to undo this law, right? Go on.
But I have the right to, under my activism, to tell people that this is not right. That's the question.
Yeah.
Who is anyone to say what's right and what's wrong?
It's not based on
if the law that you're against, call it blasphemy, law A, law B, whatever. Science is changing. We know that. Later on down the line, they come to you and say we have overwhelming scientific evidence to prove that such and such thing is right. Then your criteria remains science and data, as you said. Our criteria with that is pragmatism. So if they come around and say that this is proven to be right, then your activism will be fruitless, because you're preventing people from something that's scientifically proven right.
I will change my activism.
Okay, so you're willing to admit that your activism right now could be the exact opposite what should be the case. It could lead us to something really
I go beyond.
terrible.
I go beyond admitting that it could be. I will tell you that from all the things I push for, I'm almost certain that some of them are not good. Because I push for many things. I cannot be right about all of them. I'm almost certain that among all of the things that I'm almost certain that among all of the things that I'm pushing for and advocating for, at least some of them are not good. Almost certain that some of them are not good. I don't know which ones, because I will stop as soon as I find out.
So you're going like that's a risky journey, because you're saying that your activism could lead to something that's terrible. I would be a little bit wary while
Yeah, I'm very, but we do our best to keep trying to recheck what we're pushing for. Here's the thing: you say science is changing, that's a good thing. And the thing is that none of us is 100% right about the values that we are trying to push for, right? The key is to admit that, and the key is to try to be better and try to push for more good things than bad things, and to constantly reevaluate your positions and have people. This is why I do this live streams, because the people in the live chat are constantly pushing back against me, right? To try to be, and again, even if they're pushing back against me, I know I have biases and I have some unreasonable resistance to changing my opinion sometimes, right? But trying to, the best way is you cannot get everything 100% right. Right? So that doesn't mean that you just should stop activism because, like, should I just wait? Should I just not do activism because I'm not going to be 100% right? No, I'm just going to try to do better. I'm just going to try to constantly reevaluate myself and see if there is, for example, I think, for example, in Germany, there are certain limits to free speech on certain things that you cannot question, right? I think that's a bad idea. All right. I like the United States version a lot better. Okay. But if
So emphasis
there's,
on I think.
yes, I think, but I'm willing to change. If there is actual evidence to show that Germany has the right model and United States model of, First Amendment is not the right way, I will change my opinion if somebody could prove it to me, and I will change my activism.
Okay, but
But again,
then
your
is it
question on who is the wrong question. When you say who's right, who gets to decide, there's the one thing I like about the scientific method is that it doesn't even trust the scientists, right? The scientific method does not even trust the scientists. It's not about who, it's about what. It's about what methodology gives us not the 100% certain results, what methodology gives us the best results, the most consistently good results, even though sometimes there's misfires.
Yeah, but science, you would agree that it's not always the answer, right? For example, human rights is not a scientifically proven thing.
No, what you can do with that, for example, is you could scientifically collect data, right? And you could do analysis on, again, social scientists do this all the time. They try to figure out what rights, what standards, what trends causes. I mean, if you go and look at, it gets very, very deep into doing analysis of what. I mean, people. I mean, come on, people actually. The things that gets analyzed in scientific way gets into so much nuance and so much details that is like it's crazy. Like how picky these scientists gets over trying to factor in all external variables and collect the data in the most randomized way and scientific way and try to
Yes, but
see if there is a
they will.
correlation with those data. Hold on, if there is a correlation with those data and something else, and if the correlation actually proves causation or not. And the scientists, like, if you actually read these research papers, they go out of their way a lot of times to show the limitations of the study. But even after all of that, sometimes these studies, then when it gets peer reviewed, they're deemed to be not worthy, and even after that, people still doubt them, and then you do meta-analysis, and even after meta-analysis of these studies, some people say that doesn't mean that it's like a revelation from God that you could actually trust it 100%, and you could change your opinion based on new data that you find later. So, but again, these are you can look at laws that are passed and standards that a society has, and even not just even legal standards, even like cultural norms and how that affects people's behavior and what impacts that has on society. These have been analyzed endlessly. There are like thousands of papers on these, right? So you cannot say that these things, I mean, it's not just about free speech. It's about the most small little details in life and how it affects people's lives, right? There's papers on all of these, and again, these are just the best information that we have at hand. It doesn't mean that it's the one is we pointing out the flaws of the scientific method is not an argument for us not using it, because nobody has provided a better alternative. But go on.
Oh, but yeah, you did mention the scientific method, but the thing is, it is all contingent on something that's innate within us. For example, someone hitting a child, a big macho man, gangster hitting a child will cause pain, and every one of us will consider that morally bad because it caused pain. Now, pain can be experienced, but we cannot scientifically tell whether that thing is good or bad. These things still remain.
Oh my God.
The reason I'm bringing it up is because science does not have all the answers. That's basically my point. But we are moving away from the.
Yeah, we're completely moving away from that. It's okay. So, um, you're asking for a question to your answer to a question that the answer is already there. Like it's defined that way. Okay, so for example, let's say like I want food. I enjoy eating food. Okay, and now we're looking at a farm, and me and you are trying to figure out how to get the most amount of food out of this farm. Okay, like should we like get corn out of it? Should we feed the corns to cows so we could get meat out of it, or we should just eat the corn directly? How can we get the most amount of food from this ground? And now you come up with a plan. You're like, okay, like if we do watering, if we plant the seeds like this, and then we do watering like this, and then I have research paper that this will give us the most yield, and this will the crops, if you use pesticide, this is the brand of pesticide that has studies show that will actually not corrupt the food, and we lose this much energy if we actually give the corn to the cows, but if we eat right. So I could come
get
up with
the
a
point.
lot of research, you could provide me with a lot of research and analysis and trends and peer reviewed
Okay.
journals to be like, this is the best method. And then if I
Okay.
come to you, like if I could come back to you and say like, but none of your research papers shows to me why do we like food. Can you prove? None of it's all throw it away, because you have, before you do all of that, you have to tell me why. Can you say food is good? Why eating
Okay.
is good? Right? I'm gonna be like, that's not a question that needs answering. I know that I like food. Okay, I like food.
Point taken.
Okay,
Point
right?
point
Yeah.
taken. I'll quickly. I just want to bring it back to the whole the blasphemy thing. So we agreed in the last half hour, point one, that blasphemy, like, laws could be wrong according to you, but to other people they could be right. It could be law A, B, C, or blasphemy. And the second thing we agreed on is that your activism could very well be leading to something terrible, but you're just not aware of it and you're letting that happen till you realize.
So again, my emphasis is on methodology than conclusions, right? So the methodologies that work best sometimes gives you wrong answers, right? But I favor a methodology that gives you better answers and sometimes wrong answers over a methodology that sometimes gives you good answers but most of the time gives you bad answers, right? So yes, using my methodology, sometimes you come to wrong conclusions, right? But those wrong conclusions should not be used as a way to completely dismiss the superior methodology.
Okay, and then if down the road some they do come along and say that things like, let's say, for in our example, limitation on freedom of speech, there is overwhelming scientific evidence that is actually a good thing, then you will say that, okay, I can see.
Yes, yeah. If there is evidence to show that limiting free speech to some extent is
Okay.
actually better for society, if there is proof for that, I will change my activism. I will concede.
Okay. All right. Now, just to work quickly. It's already 43 minutes. I just
I
want to
can't
say.
imagine how that would happen, but I'll try to be open-minded. By the way, Harris Sultan is in live chat. Apparently, something has happened to some of his one of his YouTube videos, so I might do a live stream on that. Okay, but we need to protect each other we need to hide. Yeah. So, guys, check out Harris Sultan's YouTube channel. It is so one of his videos seems to be have violated. YouTube says it's violating its guidelines, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't. Almost sure it hasn't. But go on, Ali.
All right. So, I mean, I kind of lost my train of thoughts. But you mentioned
I'm sorry.
the.
Yeah. Write it down. Yeah, I have notes.
That's okay. So, you mentioned, changing your mind at that point in time. But what about ideas being harmful? So, you said you're a free speech absolutist. We go down this road, then we can go ahead and poison the discourse. You keep on saying.
I have
go
some
ahead.
limitations on free speech, though.
But okay, because Yeah, you had that blasphemy day
No,
presentation. Susanna said we both are free speech absolutists. You
yeah, I
disagree
don't
with that?
know. That depends on what that means, okay? Because free speech, I am against scams, for example, right? If you say this cures cancer and it doesn't, and you're taking money for people, and so that's not protected under free speech. It shouldn't be protected under free speech, right? If I say, if somebody says like, hey, I'm offering $5,000 to anybody who goes and takes care of Armin,
Okay. So you
right?
draw lines.
Yeah, draw lines based on stuff that is already covered under laws, not because of the speech itself, not because like hiring somebody for murder, that's already illegal, scamming people out of their money, telling them that so these are covered
That's
under
already
other laws
established in the law.
in the
You
law.
you
It's not
you
just
draw a
because
line
somebody,
there.
yeah, that's the
Okay.
line, but based on other laws, right? So yeah,
Okay. So
it's not because somebody's saying something, right?
okay. So you are almost a free speech absolutist, except in the case where there's already a legal clause that says that they cannot do that.
Yeah, like scams and
Okay.
hiring somebody
Okay.
for murder or
All
something.
right. So like to be honest, I will not call that being a free speech absolutist. You at the end of
All
the
right.
day, you still draw line. At the end of the day, you're still
Okay.
drawing
I
line.
don't, again, depends on your definition. If you don't use that, if that doesn't meet your definition, then I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Now let's get to the whole law thing. So you are drawing a line here. Society believes that ABC idea is harmful.
Hmm.
They decide to deter free speech because they believe that idea is harmful. So, and the last thing I mentioned that the H word, we cannot say it here, is
Yeah.
uh,
Thank
is
you.
considered harmful. There are
But the
laws
big,
that
let's clear to people, by the bitch word, you're referring to what the low melanin supreme sandwich people from Germany did to the children of Abraham. That's what you're referring to. We call it the big H. 6 million of them were gassed, and they're also, let's never forget, it wasn't just the Jays. It was also the handicapped people and the homosexuals, and who else was it? And gypsies. Like millions of those people as well. So let's remember them as well. But go on.
so yeah, considered over there, the idea is considered harmful. It's banned to deny that.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that that should not be the case because we need to talk more and more to get to the truth. We need to talk to each other, discuss these ideas, so we
Mm-hmm.
ultimately get to the truth. So similarly, ideas are harmful. There's a public school in America. Let's say we someone random comes in essay and says, I want to teach kids our theory, and we believe in flat Earth. We want you to teach this as well. So would you be willing for flat earthers to take the floor and preach their ideology, no matter how harmful
Free speech,
it is?
free speech doesn't mean you have the right to every platform.
What does free speech mean then?
Free speech means that the government doesn't get to come and shut you down for your
But the
opinions.
government
It doesn't
is
mean, well,
democratically elected.
yeah, okay, so we could have a government that is democratically elected that is violating free speech principles, right? So that would be a government that I think that is doing something wrong, right? So again, we already separated those two things, right? We've separated,
Yes.
there's two different principles here, right? So let's focus on whether this is a good idea or not, so it's possible for a democratically elected government to do bad things. So I'm not gonna, just because it was democratically elected, I'm not gonna endorse every law that they pass. So let's put the democratically elected thing to the side, right? And let's focus on whether um, let's focus on the free speech principle. Okay, so
Okay.
if an idea is bad, and I'm saying this is a bad idea, but the government should not be able to limit the expression of it, that does not mean that the government, in my opinion, has a responsibility to platform that idea in public school. Like, no, that just means that if you go and go into the streets and like, hey, look, this is like, guys, here's my book, here's my paper on why this big itch is a lie, come read it. If the government comes and puts you in a van and arrests you or gives you a fine or something like that, or even if some people, even if not the government, even if some people want to come rough you up and the government is like steps back and lets them do it, right? This is all the government violating free speech. I think the government should not stop you from saying these things, right? And if you do get attacked by a mob, the government should give you the protection that it gives everybody else, right? But that does not mean that the government has a responsibility to, not just the government. Nobody owes you a platform. The government doesn't. The government doesn't have to allow you to spread your
Okay.
crap in public school, and neither does anybody else. Free speech does not mean that you have a right to a platform. But go on.
Now, see, although we dislike the mention of government, I'm going to replace it with society. The reason I'm bringing this up is because opinions can vary. See, now yesterday, I don't know when you had the discussion with the Haris Sultan was there, AP Apostate Prophet was there, the WAP lyrics, Alvin. Different opinion, you disagree, other people agree, but it's important in that, if it's not enforceable, we are not getting anywhere in the society. If a
What do you mean?
society deems something unacceptable, for example, Supreme Court judge was selected in the United States.
Mm.
Senate needs 51 people, like majority. If the Republicans say, I disagree with Democrats judge, but that's my opinion. Democrats will say, I disagree with the Republicans judge, but that's my opinion. We are not getting anywhere. We need a tiebreaker. We need something enforceable. Opinion will exist, but you
Yeah,
need something enforceable that's
I
agreed
well,
upon by the society. That's why I'm bringing up a democratically elected government.
well, the
Otherwise, all we're
process.
left with is opinions, and
Yeah,
that's
but
but
the process that I suggested to you was opinions will change. Like we, through our activism, and other people through their activism, try to compete with each other and try to change the opinions of the people on the ground, right? And through a democratically elected government, the opinions on the ground, hopefully, if it is actually democratic, will eventually lead to the politicians that represent those values of people on the ground. And I would argue, actually, like United States has a lot of flaws in that as well, right? So, for example, there's a lot of studies that shows that, for example, in the United States, most of the laws are based on the influence of lobbying groups rather than the opinions of people, right?
okay.
So that's a flaw in the system as well. But in if in a in a more, but again, democracy is not like a binary thing, like whether it's democracy on, democracy
Yes,
off,
yeah.
right? But the higher level of democracy that you have, again, as long as you are is a constitutional democracy, that there's certain values that are, you're not going to change. But in a democratic country, our role in changing people's opinion is so that they elect the officials that actually pass laws based on the standards that we think make the world a better place. But again, one of those principles is to make sure that the government is democratically elected, even if people choose standards that we don't like, right? Like that
Okay.
is something that we
Simple
have to
question.
yeah.
A simple question. We have come to the conclusion. Propagating flat Earth is wrong. We have established that. Society agrees that this should be deterred at every platform possible, with the fullest extent of the law, agreed
Wait,
upon
what?
by the people.
Okay,
Okay,
that's bad idea.
that's a bad idea, according to you. And once again,
Mm.
we're talking. We have
Yeah,
reduced
but why
ourselves to
what
opinions.
why are we saying according to me? Of course it's according to me. That's what I'm representing. I'm representing me. Like, what other opinion should I be representing?
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
just
the
like
the
when you say
complaint I
according to
have.
me, according to me, as opposed to what? Like, do you want me to say your opinions instead of my opinions?
No, this is just a general complaint I have with ex-Muslims, in general. Ali Rizvi's book, The Atheist Muslim, is yes, please check this out. Ali Rizvi's book, The Atheist Muslim, and most of, I think, Haris Sultan's book also, Curse of God. I think
Oh,
it's
where's
it's opinion. It's all opinion. Like 90% of the book is opinion, but they come across as, scripture says this. They will mention the Quran, chapter 9, verse 5, without the context, and the whole book is just opinion, nothing else.
Wait,
But
where's
they come
Harry
across as
Sultan?
if you're coming off as authorities. The scripture mentions this. This is wrong. This is why I'm against reducing our takes, our hot takes, to just opinions. It's
Okay,
impotent if it's not enforceable. And
you
same
say.
with
I
go ahead.
think okay. Your all we have is our opinions. Okay, you say your opinion because you think it's true. Obviously, when you're saying your opinion, you're saying it because you think it's true. Just because it could be wrong, that doesn't mean you shouldn't declare it as something that you believe is true. I mean, that's the
Yes.
whole point of Smith. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to talk if
Then
that's
make
your
a
standard.
disclaimer. Then always
Uh,
make a disclaimer that this is my opinion,
okay, that's
and
like
don't
so.
go
Okay,
claiming
you have
the texts and the
that's a
traditions in the
given though. That's a given. Like, what do you want me to like? If do you want me to say that before every sentence?
Actually, yes. Actually, yes. Because
That's that
it's misleading. It's
no.
misleading if you just go. For example, you
That's
uh,
that's
uh,
stupid. Okay, you
the
could declare everybody to everybody once or twice every week or something. Like, guys, obvious. Like, I think my audience is mature enough to know that I do not think that
okay,
my
yeah, okay.
opinion is.
I
Well, hold
take
on.
that
Let
back,
me
that you have to
my
say that every time. But
yeah, but I think
quoting
that
the
here's the thing: don't do this with everybody. Every book you read, not just book, even research papers, even peer-reviewed research paper, even meta-analysis. We promote skepticism. None of this. If I think the best research papers in the world maybe are wrong, right? What do you think I tell people about my opinion? Do you think I tell people not to be skeptical about my opinions? Do you think like I treat them like this is the truth and
of
that's
course
it?
they
I mean,
can. Of course, no one's
right?
putting a
Like
gun to the head.
like me, Harris Sultan, Ali Riz, we promote skepticism not just on our opinions, on everyone's opinion. So we are doing that. So I don't understand like how like what is like given how pro skepticism that we are. What do you want us to
Okay,
do when it comes to
then
our opinions? We have to like. Do you want
then
me to like have a sign? Like, I just hold a sign like, "Hey, I could be wrong," and I hold this like this every time I speak
yeah,
about
but
something.
why do you call context, anything with context, mental gymnastics? Because this is what I'm against.
No,
The reason you do.
nope.
Whenever someone talks of context, is oh, it's mental gymnastic. Now you will explain chapter 4 verse 34, you will explain chapter this. See, uh, context is important. Just like you posted the picture on the Berlin Memorial of the
Can I?
big edge,
Can you
and
just
then
remember
you
that for a second? Can I just respond to that really
okay.
quickly? I'm in. I'm in favor of context. I'm in favor of context. In fact, I have gone on record of saying that yeah, the context usually makes it worse. I don't claim mental gymnastics just because somebody is providing context. I claim mental gymnastics when somebody is using mental gymnastics. Okay? Usually mental gymnastics comes in the form of I'm providing context, but when you look at it, it's not providing context, it's just mental gymnastics. But when you actually, maybe I'm wrong, hey, fool out there, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they're actually providing better context than what I was doing, right? But um we are in favor of providing context. We actually say like, hey, this is like, look, they're simplifying it, here's the full context, and sometimes they do a right job, sometimes they do it great. Well, I have mail. Can you actually say stuff to people while I go check this out? Be right back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, by the way, guys, whoever's watching, I don't know, I'm new to this whole live stream thing. I've never done this before. Actually, once I did it in Secular Jihadist, I think back in July 2019. Uh, but it has been a while. I don't usually do this, so I don't know if I'm even seeing the comments properly. Armin said that he got mail. So let me see. I don't know where the comments are. Give me 1 minute. All right.
Hey, how come you're not talking? You're supposed to keep everyone entertained.
I talked for like seconds and then
Oh,
I was trying to find the comments over there.
all right. What was it? Okay, so where were we? Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, yeah.
No.
Whenever context
So
is mentioned, people do seem to use mental
let me give you
gymnastics a
an
lot.
example. Let me give an example. Like, for example, there's a Quranic verse that says, like, do not, killing one man is like killing all humankind, right? So
Mhm.
I hear Muslims say that, like, look, Quran is against killing, right? But then when you look into it, you're like, okay, first of all, that was, look at the full context. Let's give full context. That was about Bani Israel. That was about God, what God gave a commandment to them, and they specifically, it was, people like, oh, when Muslims say, like, oh, you cannot use this verse now because this is for specific people at a specific time. Well, if you look at that verse, first of all, that was for a specific people at a specific time. It was not meant to be like a commandment for all people at all times, right? And also, if you look at the verse after, full context, it asks, God tells people to how to crucify people who are spreading corruptions on earth, which is basically, I'm pretty sure people can't survive. Most people don't survive crucifixions, right? Like, I think people, yeah. So then the very next verse where God says, like, crucify people who are spreading corruption on earth, goes against the idea of not killing people, right? So for example, when Obama comes and says, like, oh, the Quran is anti-killing because it tells you that killing one man is like killing all mankind, like, can we read this in context, both in historical in context of what that specific verse means, and also maybe just look one verse after. So I'm fully in favor. I'm fully in favor of looking at verses in context.
I mean, I mean, many other verses that just prevent you from killing. But since I'm not a
I,
scholar, I cannot.
yeah, no, we're
I'm
not
just here
disputing
to.
this verse here. I'm not disputing that. We're not going to argue over this verse. What I'm saying is that we are in favor of looking at verses in context rather than looking
Okay.
at them just by
Yeah, but
itself.
yeah, basically, I mean, in the end, I just want to go to the whole thing about crediting the religion for the good things that are done by its followers. Why is that? Why do you? Most of the times, I did mention you say that Muslims are better than Islam. You maintain that, right?
Yes,
But
Muslims are better than us.
if you see the context, the concept of zakat, is the terminology of zakat, did it originate from enlightenment values or Jewish tradition, or is it an innately an Islamic concept?
Tell people what zakat means, and this will be our last point because we already went over an hour. But tell people what zakat
Oh
means, and
yeah,
then I'll respond. Zakat means
zakat
like
is just
charity.
obligatory charity that Muslims are
Mm,
supposed to give in order to
mm,
rotate the wealth in the world and keep the system flowing with poor people
mm,
having 2.5% of surplus wealth.
mm. Yeah, my experience, by the way, with zakat has been very bad. And I'm not saying that's, for example, in Iran, zakat has been used to fund the government for its Terry related activity, and I can't say, like, it's basically building its empire, in Iran and Middle East. So zakat has been used for, but anyways, that's just Iran's government, not Islam. However, okay, so when it comes to zakat, I do think that here, for example, here's what I say. I think a lot of Muslims give to charity not because it's mandated, but like, I actually see this as a compliment to Muslims, right? I say, for example, I think, I'm hoping at least, okay, that the Muslims who give to charity, it's not because it's a commandment from Allah. That maybe they would have given to charity even if it wasn't commandment from Allah. It's they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. So
The
I'm
kindness of
giving,
the heart is God given.
yeah, that's your opinion. Again, like you said, keep using that on me. Now I'm using it on you, right? You're saying the
Sure,
kindness of
yeah.
your heart is God given, right? I am, but what I'm saying is that you're saying this is mandated by God. I am actually, I look higher. I look highly enough to Muslims, right? I don't want to say I have faith in them. I give them more credit than many Muslims say, like, oh, these Muslims are giving to charity because of zakat. I'm giving them more credit. I think that these people are kind enough that they probably would have given to charity even if they weren't being asked. I mean, I'm hoping, because technically, if you didn't want to give to charity, but you are giving to charity because you feel like you're forced to by God, I mean, technically, you don't deserve credit for
Who's being
that.
forced? You can choose not to give.
Okay, but no, I mean, if you think that you are collecting for by force, I mean like the consequences of it in the afterlife, like trying to avoid hell, trying to go to heaven, collecting brownie points from the tyrant in the sky. If you're doing it for the reward, if you're doing it for collecting sawab, rather than because you actually genuinely care about for your human beings, right? I don't really consider that to be, if somebody is doing that solely because they're motivated from that, I don't consider that to be a good person, right? Or a good deed. But I don't think that about Muslims. I genuinely think that most Muslims, when they give to charity, it's not because of the reward that they're going to get in the afterlife. It's because they genuinely care about their fellow human beings. So when I say most Muslims are better than Islam, it's not just about terror related stuff or like violence. Even in the simple things, I think I give them more credit than Islam.
Okay, but my question was, do you believe zakat is an Islamic concept?
Yes, it's one of the main 5 principles in Islam.
So
One of the 5
Islam
principles
is,
of Islam.
so if your point is Islam is bad because there's charity in it.
No. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's a better example of something that
Why
zakat
are
has
you separating the concept with the followers of the?
No, I didn't. Did you not hear what I said? Okay, I said, okay, so there's 2 things going on here, right? First of all, good deeds commanded by Allah or Yahweh or Jesus, right? If you follow it because it's been commanded or because you're collecting brownie points in the afterlife, I don't consider that a good deed. If you're doing it because you want to help your fellow human beings, I consider that a good deed. That's one thing, right?
God mandated to be good to fellow human beings. I mean, I'm not seeing the point of divorcing the religion and the adherents of that religion based on this, because this way you can say many things, but
you're
being good
basically
to fellow
following.
human beings.
You're not being moral. You're following orders. That's the difference. You're not being a moral person. You're just following orders. That's the difference.
But
Okay?
our morals are from God. Okay, so this is the
That's what.
point of
Yeah, that's
disagreement.
what.
Okay.
Yeah, you think that our morals come from God. I don't think our morals come from God. Right? So, yeah, if our morals come from God, then yeah, thanks God for giving us the sense of kindness that we enjoy so much. Okay, but I don't believe that. Right? So we could discuss the existence of God and stuff like that, but I already turn that into a book because I was tired of arguing that. So anyone wants to check that out, Why There's No God, check that out. Okay, that's my book. But wait, what was I? No, one is another thing with regards to good teachings in Christianity or Islam or something like that. The example that I use, because zakat is, if you get into the details, there might be some problems there. But let's say it's good. And not one thing in Islam that you learn that is purely good is taking care of orphans. Right? Islam teaches you to take care of orphans. Do you agree?
Yes.
Like to be, yeah, and that's there's nothing problematic about that. That is purely good. But the problem with that is the example I give to people is this. Like, imagine, I can't mention his name. The guy that rhymes with Himmler, but was the leader of Germany during World War II. That guy, okay? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Imagine that guy committed all the crimes that he committed, and 6 million J people, and gypsies, and handicapped people, and homosexuals, and also a lot of people killed in war because of this guy and all his disgusting views being spread out there. Right. But imagine that he, like, we go do an alternative history, and he did all of that. Plus, he was very kind to orphans, very kind to orphans. And he went in and he fed them. He went and we have pictures of him, and he went and examples of him taking care of them, funding orphanages, and all of that. Right. That would make him a more dangerous person, and his ideology a more dangerous ideology, because all of those disgusting things were there. But now we have a bigger PR front for spreading this poison, right? So even in that situation, I think like that makes it more dangerous, not less dangerous. And also, when in that one third thing, no, one third. The third thing is that when what religions do is they take a lot of good things that would have happened without religion as well, and they
How
monopolize.
is there evidence for that?
Yeah. I mean, if you could look at, say, the level of charities based on in secular countries and compare it to non-secular countries, you can see it's the same thing, right? And you can see that people that without religion are as charitable as people without religion are as
But
charitable as people with
yeah,
religion.
in
No,
in the UK, the highest charity paying group would be Muslims.
yeah,
The reason that they would give is because of Islam. You cannot
because
separate the two.
the non-Muslim ones are not labeled as atheistic or something like that. You know, like if you add Amnesty International, Doctors Without Borders, Save the Children, if you add all these charities, they're huge, okay? But they don't get labeled as non-Muslim charity, right? But yeah, so, and if you actually look at studies, the people who are religious versus people who are not religious people are not more charitable, right? But the thing is, what happens is that a lot of the religious charities, they are extremely inefficient. A lot of them spend a lot of their money on spreading their propaganda, like their Islamic or Christian ideology, or other charities. They are not transparent. They get a lot of unfair privileges compared to non-religious charities. And what it does
I'm
is
not talking about what people do. I'm
yeah.
just
No,
simply
but I'm
talking about
saying
the concept.
religion. Yeah, but I'm saying what religion does as a whole is that these good ideas, first of all, they weren't invented by these religions, but they poison these good ideas, because these good ideas that already existed before them and continue to exist after them, they come with baggage. They come up with poisonous ideas that are attached to them. If you look at morality and ethics, the way that these ideas were discussed before Abrahamic religions, since ancient Greek times, they were being discussed what's ethical and what's not in way more nuance and a lot more detail, and with far better methodology into figure out what's right and wrong than Christianity, Islam, or Judaism or Hinduism ever introduced to us. Right. So it's not the idea of what's a good society and what's
Yeah,
a bad society.
I I mean, we could go into that. We'll still have some
Right.
disagreements on the roots of it.
Right.
But yeah, the big takeaway, I would say, the big takeaway from the talk was that we now agree that Armin's activism could very well lead to something terrible. He's just that he's not realizing it yet. That's my one big takeaway.
But and that's different from other activists. How? Even the best activists. No, okay. So even the best activists in the world, right? Probably have a few things wrong. Right?
I mean, yeah, I will not. I mean, I've never come across many other. I mean, activist people. I have, but the kind. Oh, sure, that might not be true. But I'm talking to one, and they say so. So then I just wanted to.
I mean, it's a good. I think the good thing is to admit it. Like every activist probably has a couple of points wrong. But I think the good difference is, I mean, at least me and other people admit that and try to be better. I think that's the more important part.
We're just hoping that it does not get, the damage is probably already done, and then we choose, we were wrong. Let's
I'm not.
hope that.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
That does
Yeah,
not
that's,
happen. Okay,
we can
it's possible,
do
right? It's
we
it's
can do
possible that you do the damage and then realize later on that
yeah, but we don't have to hope. We could do better than hope. We could constantly try to reevaluate.
And that reevaluation, I'm just hoping it does not come at a time when the damage has already been done. That's what I'm saying.
We're doing our best. We're all doing our best.
But it's possible that the damage might have already been done. But thank you for having me. So it was a good discussion. The other takeaway would be definitely that we are attacking Islam, not Muslims, is in itself not true, but true according to you. They
Depends
said
on
we're
definition, right?
right. Yeah, it's comes down to opinion, and that's why enforcing the opinion still has that's what counts. Otherwise, opinions could exist for every other thing.
Yeah, that's all we're trying to do. Me and you, everybody, is trying to change opinions enough until we could make enough changes to make the laws which are enforceable and according to what makes the highest number of people happy and the least number of people miserable. That's what I think all of us are.
You are a utilitarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could discuss that. We could discuss that another time.
All right. Anyway, nice talking to you. So
yeah,
we'll see you then.
Were you happy? Were you happy with the talk? Like, is it like you? Yeah,
like, I mean,
I'm
happy that points. I got my point across.
Good.
We
I gave you a chance.
And definitely. Thanks to you for that.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss some more things in the future then.
And you find it constructive? You find the discussion constructive?
Yes. I would say, I mean, because you see, most of the times on your live stream, I mentioned back in July 2019 when I had discussion with you in Secular Jihadist that it's always an echo chamber unless there's someone with an opposing view.
Well, that's why you're here.
To get rid of that echo chamber and pats on the back always, we need to have some opposing view. I hope that now you will rethink some things, that some mantras that ex-Muslims keep saying. They will reevaluate their positions and be little less negatively vocal on social media, because definitely if we go with our definition of attack, that will be bad. It will ultimately lead to bad. So ex-Muslim atheist is saying no again, opinions. So yeah. But yeah, thanks again for having me.
Well, no, thank you for being here. Okay, I'm going to end the live stream. Just 1 second. Guys, thank you in the live chat. Guys, everybody. Okay, I'm not going to yell because we have a guest, but just please subscribe. Just hit the notification bell right now. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Just do it now.